Hi folks, it's Mayor Victoria Gearity coming to you on Wednesday afternoon, and I have a couple of updates on new orders from the state, as well as good news about how things are going locally. It's nice to be able to have some good news to sprinkle in there, particularly as every day we are learning about more friends, more colleagues who are struggling with this virus, and some who are passing on and are becoming victims of this virus. So it makes it I guess the only good thing about that kind of news is that it means there is greater and greater compliance with the social distancing regulations, and the social distancing rules are continuing to expand, which is something that I'm going to update you on today. There is also some good news on the front of the fact that we are really making a difference. The social distancing is having a major impact. Most of the statistics are going down, and some of them are unfortunately, we had a spike in the number of deaths yesterday, which means that someone who just died of the virus probably contracted it about 3 weeks ago. So let's hope that as we've seen this, and I think it's we're going to see all of those statistics stabilize and come down, because we've now had increasing compliance with the restrictions and an increasing in the restrictions. And that's what I'll start with today. If you saw the update from Governor Cuomo today, you saw this message again being expanded, the use of masks and face coverings being expanded for residents. But first and foremost, I want to update you on my conversation with Chief Sylvester regarding our local efforts to provide information about the requirement that takes effect at 8 p.m. tonight for all essential workers. That is obviously everyone in village government, where we have already been abiding by these regulations proactively, but it's going to also impact all of our grocery store workers. Any essential services that are still operational will now need to wear face covering if they are going to be within 6 feet of a member of the public. And the governor, let me talk about the personal use after. He's pretty. When they say face covering, the governor went to great lengths to explain to us what that looks like, and it could be just a kerchief or a bandana, as long as it's covering your nose and mouth. Most often, we think of the masks, and this is not an N95 mask. This is a mask that my husband dug out for me from the garage. And for me as a resident, I will be using something more like a scarf or a bandana if I'm just going to take a walk. And there's a chance that I might run into someone. If I'm taking a walk in my neighborhood and there's not a lot of traffic and I can maintain 6 feet of distance at least from someone else, then at least having my mask on and around my neck, perhaps pulled down. If I were a runner, I really wouldn't want to, it's that much more difficult to have a face covering while you're running. But if you might stop at an intersection or be in a congested area where you're going to be within 6 feet of another person, in 3 days, the mask/face covering requirement is going to be expanded to everyone who is leaving their home. So if you are going to go out for a walk, you need to be wearing a mask, and that's not to protect you. Really, this is not an N95 mask. This is not an N95 mask that would protect me from someone else's germs. What it does is protects them from my germs. So when I'm speaking or coughing or sneezing or just exhaling, I'm not able to. I'm keeping my germs close to myself rather than getting them to somebody else if I have to be in close proximity to them. As I said, that could be just because you're on a narrow pathway or because you're stopped at an intersection. So in those cases, if you're going to be going to a grocery store, so if I were going to the grocery store, I'm going to wear my mask because it's a lot more comfortable than actually wearing a bandana, which can kind of push down on your nose. But if I'm going to walk around and I don't really expect to see anyone and I might want to be able to pull it off easily, I'm going to want to save my mask for when I know I'm going to be in contact with people. I have a couple of these, but I don't have an endless supply. Whereas masks and scarves, I can put a new one on every day. And if I'm going to go for a walk around my block where it's not too densely populated, I'll bring this, I'll wear it. I might pull it down and then pull it up if I'm going to come in contact with someone. That's how I'm approaching it. Some people won't leave their house without a mask, and that's great. Then you're already in compliance. So let me just recap where we are with that. For businesses, starting at 8 p.m. today, any business, any organization that has essential workers everyone who is in contact within 6 feet of anyone else with a member of the public needs to be wearing a face covering, which, as I was saying, there's a pretty loose definition of what that is. There is good news for folks in Ossining. At least as of earlier today, Melrose Lumber still had masks that were available to be sold, and they can do curbside pickup. So our police officers have been going around to local businesses to let them know about the governor's order, and there's really good news on that front. I asked Chief Sylvester what they're seeing out there, what sort of behaviors they're seeing in our grocery stores and in other essential businesses, and there has definitely been an evolution in the ability to comply. They all have signs now limiting the numbers of people who can come in stores. There is widespread compliance on the occasions where there might be a congregation of people. It's usually just a lapse in awareness or a mistake. Somebody didn't realize they were just entering a doorway when somebody else was coming out. So they really are seeing widespread compliance. And I think that, unfortunately, very sadly, goes back to the fact that this virus has become so real for everyone. At this point, everyone has a friend or a family member or a coworker who is suffering with it or has lost their life to it. So that is really, unfortunately, the tragedies that sometimes are necessary to make this the need for social distancing real to people. But it does mean that we are seeing much greater compliance than we were a few weeks ago. People are taking this very, very seriously. So by 8 p.m. tonight, all essential workers are going to be wearing masks or cloth face coverings, and that same standard is going to be in effect. The governor announced it today and gives 3 days notice. The reality is you might as well start complying now. Especially if you don't have a mask, you can wear a face covering. Just make sure it covers your nose and your mouth, and make sure you are wearing it anytime that you are going to be within 6 feet of another person. Which is certainly, if you're going grocery shopping, the whole time you're there, you're very likely to be within 6 feet of someone. So please make sure that you're wearing your face covering and that it covers your nose and your mouth. Just wearing it around your neck, you're not wearing it. You've got it handy for when you come in contact with people, but when you're going to be in a space like a grocery store or a pharmacy, then that's a time when you should just be wearing it the entire time you're in that store. The other things I wanted to update folks on, it was an intense 36 hours here in Ossining for anyone who didn't have power. And big thanks to Chief Sylvester and his team for coordinating all of the efforts of Con Ed and the Con Ed line crews and tree crews. And for those folks who were trapped at home, perhaps without power for a day and a half, that felt like even time was passing even slower than usual these days. But we were pleased to say that we had 100% restoration by late last night of power anyway. And I know there still might be some lingering cable challenges, but that's a little more a little less of a disruption. Your food's not going to spoil, although it is a frustration if you're stuck at home and you can't get to work and you can't do your schoolwork. So I hope that is moving forward for people as well. The last thing I will update folks on is I mentioned that earlier this week, we, thanks to the school district for initiating a Zoom meeting with community leaders, elected, not-for-profit leaders, organizations throughout our community to just all get on the same page. We all communicate, piecemeal and in different groups, but it was good to have so many of us together talking about what's going on. And one of the topics that came up was we have so many terrific programs out there helping people in Ossining to make sure that they have enough food. Many people, many families are suffering a major loss of wages and income for their household. At the very least, we want to make sure that there is no family going hungry in Ossining. And we were the first community in Westchester to contact Feeding Westchester and start with our food distribution. That has been going very well. We are now going to that happens 3 times a day on Tuesdays, and I think we're just going to be sticking with Tuesdays now. We're now only getting one delivery a week from Feeding Westchester, and we are meeting the needs of many, many families. And but in addition to that, there are additional food pantries that happen semi-monthly at the schools and at Star of Bethlehem, and the Ossining Food Pantry that operates all the time through Trinity Church has actually shifted their focus now to be providing gift cards to the registered users of the food pantry. So if you are a registered user for the food pantry or you would like to become one, I encourage you to reach out to them either online at their website, and their phone number there is 914-762-5510. The Feeding Westchester Grab and Go grocery bags are being distributed every Tuesday from 9 a.m. to 11 at Market Square, from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. 9 a.m. to 11 at the community center. Then we're at Market Square from 12 to 2, and then in the evenings from 4 to 7 at Star of Bethlehem, or until supplies run out. And all of those opportunities are at no cost. The Grab and Go grocery bags are provided by Feeding Westchester. As I said, Ossining Food Pantry for the people who are registered users of the Ossining Food Pantry. There are gift cards available, which can really be helpful. There are essential items that families need other than what can be provided by food and by the food pantry. And all of this information and more, including opportunities being brought to us by Galata House and Loaves and Fishes to provide hot meals. And the distribution of those is happening at Stop and Shop on Fridays. And there's also meal delivery happening from Galata House. And as I learned on Monday, there are also meals being provided by Neighbors Link. There is just such a wealth of resources out there. We're working on Maddie and Jamie from the manager's office have been just doing a terrific job at coordinating with so many agencies, and they're putting together a document that will give you the links and information to all of these resources and more. That's going to be coming out in the next couple of days. There's just so much to coordinate and making sure that we're maximizing the opportunities for Ossining families to be able to take advantage of the generosity and the really superior organizational skills of so many organizations and programs and people in Ossining. And one last thing I will mention is for our senior citizens who are really, really being hit hard by this virus. And so we do want them staying home whenever, as much as possible. So anyone who is 65 or older who needs meal delivery can email Kathy Asaro at KASARO@townofossining.com, and the Town of Ossining coordinates the senior nutrition program. So with that, I want to say thanks for those of you who tuned in today and are tuning in every day. I will do my best to keep giving you updates on what seem to be the most pressing items to be aware of. I have not yet heard from the county today. Let me just double check what our number of positive cases is, but it's more than it was yesterday. That number's not going to go down. The number that we don't have is how many of those cases are recovered. And that's a number that's harder to track right now. They don't do retesting of people for the most part, but we do know that thousands of people in New York are recovering. In fact, most people are recovering, and I thank everyone who is taking this very seriously, and that's pretty much all of us at this point. And as you stay at home every minute that you can, and when you do go out now, make sure you have your face covering with you if you're going to be within 6 feet of someone, which is pretty much any time unless you're out in the middle of the woods. So have a face covering for yourself. And anytime you're within 6 feet, make sure it's actually covering your nose and mouth. And that is the order from the governor. It will take effect as of 8 p.m. tonight for all essential workers and for all of us anywhere in the community within by the end of the week. So there's a 3-day let you know that that's coming out, and it's time for education. And thank you to the Ossining Police Department for reaching out to our local businesses to make sure that they are aware that this is coming up. It's another opportunity to just remind our business owners and the employees of just how important all of these measures are, and also to thank them for their compliance. We're really seeing widespread compliance in the community at every level. And so thank you to everyone who is taking this seriously. You are saving lives. With that, I will be back in the virtual world tonight at 7:30. Wednesday is our village board meeting night. We will be live on Zoom, and if you want to join us, it's a legislative session. There are a couple of opportunities for the public to comment if you would like. Just go to villageofossining.org, look for meetings and agendas, and tonight is April 15th. Go to the April 15th legislative session agenda, and the link to the Zoom meeting is there. You can watch and listen live, and then it will be up on our YouTube channel by tomorrow. Thanks so much, everyone. It's always good to virtually connect with you until tomorrow, at least through this medium. Bye-bye.